Hey guys. Alright. I needed to clear something up here. The video that I made, not this last one, the one before that, about showing when we went to Maine to look at a property, I got a couple of emails that I'm not sure why, but asking me about why we were looking to move. I thought I was clear about it, but I guess not. So I wanted to come back and explain why. And again, I'll retouch on what I went over in that video. So well, when we were looking for properties originally, we were looking for more acreage, and we couldn't find it here where we are, so we kind of just settled for the house that we're in. Now, it is like an acre of land, and you know, it was okay for where we were at that time, but we always knew, again, that this was not going to be our forever homestead. Because, well, we wanted more animals, which means we needed more space. So, part of the reason people were concerned, actually local people, was well, why did you start, excuse me, the business of, you know, the shop, the pies and all that stuff, if you were just going to move? Well, I mean, because it's a business that we wanted to start, and the business goes with us no matter where we go. So it's not the type of business that has to stay here. It's not a brick and mortar, you know, like downtown kind of deal. It's in our yard. So that's why we started it when we did. And yeah, I don't really have like a specific answer to that question, because we started it because we wanted to. And again, it comes with us. Now, we've been looking for property for like over a year now. And like I said in the other video, it's kind of died down a bit because we started the shop and it got so busy that we just didn't have time. Oh, that was another thing. Why do we want to move out of Massachusetts so bad? Well, because multiple reasons. One is, both Matt and I were born and raised here. So other than a few years that I lived in Colorado as a teen, I have lived here my entire life. So I actually love this state. The problem with it is that this is an extremely expensive state. And I don't know if it has to do with Boston or what, but it is like way overpriced to live here with taxes, housing. Everything is just really expensive. If you don't believe me, go ahead and look. Go online, Google it. Like, Boston's one of the most expensive places to live anywhere in the United States. So, for some reason, Massachusetts thinks it's worth more than it is. And I'm not saying it's a bad state. It's not. It's a great state. It's just way too expensive. So for us to be able to do basically what our number one reasoning for moving is, and that is to be mortgage free, we can't do it in this state. We just can't. We've tried, we've looked, and the only thing that we can do, like, afford for what we can pay in cash, it's like completely dilapidated and would cost us more money to fix it than to buy it. So that's one reason why we're leaving Massachusetts, is it's too expensive here. Second, we need more land. We need the land for the animals. If we didn't have our homestead and we didn't have the animals, we would just stay where we are. Maybe. Because everything keeps going up. But anyway, we wouldn't be so, I don't know, in a hurry to move if we didn't have animals and want them on our land. The problem is, especially where we are in Westfield, we are, they're really, really strict on what animals that you can have on your property. You have to have like 5 acres to have a chicken, which is ridiculous, to have anything really. So we had to go through that whole process to have the shop and to be able to keep the chickens on our property, but we can only have like 5 or 6 of them. And but that just tells you how much we love our animals and aren't willing to give them up. So okay, so there's a couple of reasons. Okay, it's too expensive to live here, and I'm saying that like we're rushed all of a sudden because our mortgage has like everything mixed in, the insurance and all that stuff, and it went up $200 in 1 month. So now it is $200 more than it was a couple of months ago every month because of all the stuff that went up, taxes and everything. And I mean, that is absurd. It's just my little complaint. I got the hiccups all of a sudden. So basically those are the 2 main reasons why we are choosing to move and find our bigger permanent homestead. Again, you gotta remember, this was never going to be our like forever homestead. We knew going into it that we would be moving again, and hopefully for the last time. Because trust me, we don't want to move anymore after this. So, alright, so anyway, that's that. We have another property to see possibly Saturday, but we are going back to see that first property on Sunday. We want to walk the land again. I just want to get a better feel for it before making an offer. So hopefully, you know, nothing happens in the meantime and somebody else snags it up. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and walk it again on Sunday. That's a definite. We're waiting to hear back for Saturday for another property that is also up in Maine. And I mean, this other property is really nice. So it's got, you know, full-on house, a barn. It's almost 10 acres. So we're looking forward to that one. Only problem is, again, in this market, things go fast. So they have an open house on Sunday, and I'm trying to get up there to see it Saturday, because I have a feeling this one is probably going to go pretty quickly. So yeah. I also, in the last video, no, not the last one before that, I had mentioned how we were still looking around. So we looked in, well, we were searching in also like West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, that area. So I talked to Matt and I said, you know, we kind of have to hone this in and decide what is it, where is it we're gonna go, and just look in that spot. Because to me it was feeling kind of crazy and just all over the place, and I don't like feeling that way. I just want to sort of zone in. I just don't want to be in limbo all over the place. I just want to say, okay, this is where we want to go, and go. So we decided, and honestly I'd let him choose because I'm cool with anywhere. I said before, I'm like a full-on, like a New Englander through and through, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't go to one of those southern states. But he chose Maine, and the reason he chose Maine, even though it's funny because he hates the cold, hates it, but he chose it because his aunt's there, his aunt and uncle are there, and I guess our aunt and uncle, and he said he would prefer to be somewhere where we have family. So having family around was more important to him than the fact that he hates the cold weather. And when I tell you he hates the cold weather, this is not an exaggeration. He complains about it constantly when it's like cold out and snowing, and he dreads the winter all year long. So it could be spring and summer and gorgeous out, and he still will say something about dreading the winter. If I say something about fall, he's like, no, 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 no. As if it's gonna bring it quicker. He's funny that way. Anyway, so that's where we're at. We are specifically looking now in Maine. And so we'll see. We're kind of staying central southern Maine. I don't want to go too high up. We realize too that this is going to cut the growing season a little bit, but ways of getting around that I've already figured out and we will be implementing. Alright guys, as you can see, I am preparing ribs. So these are our own homegrown ribs. That's like way more than we're gonna actually eat. It came in 2 like racks, and I forgot to open the package before we froze it after we got it back from the butcher and separate them, so that's okay. We've got 2. So what I'll do is cook them all, and we'll use some for leftovers. They look really good though. So having that with baked potatoes, and I wanted to make bread. I don't think I have enough time now. I got stuck getting some work done and totally lost track of time. So, I mean, I'm sure that happens to everybody, right? I don't know, I might be able to squeeze it in. I'll have to see. So this is a recipe for bread. I didn't think I was gonna have enough time, but I think I will now because I remembered that there's a recipe that I saw before from the Homestead that I saw, and it's a quicker bread recipe than the ones that I have. I have a few different kinds, but they all take a little bit longer to, I don't know, be ready to bake, basically, to rise. So, and this one's kind of a bit quicker than those. So I figured I'll jump on this one real quick and that'll give me enough time. If I remember, I will put the instructions down in the description, but I'll tell you as I go along. So there is 2 cups of water in here, warm water, because obviously you've got to let the yeast bloom. 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of yeast, and I'm just using the active dry yeast. And then it calls for a tablespoon of honey. And the good thing is like I said, you don't have to wait. You just dump everything in here. And I've done this recipe before and it does work. So, like, I trust it. Oh, I don't have my small one, so what is this? Alright, so the honey's in there. You just stir it in to kind of melt that honey and incorporate it. Then you're going to need a tablespoon of salt, which I will get. And then it calls for 2 tablespoons of oil or butter. So I'm going to go ahead and use olive oil for that because that's like my go-to oil for stuff. And then it calls for 5½ cups of flour. So then you put on the dough hook, lock it, so I'm going to let that incorporate before I go turning it on higher because then the flour goes poof. Alright, you can hear it now starting to bog up, so we're going to turn that on higher. Alright, so I think it's getting to that smooth stage. You just kind of let it go until it's not sticky anymore. It doesn't stick to your fingers. It doesn't stick to the sides of the pan. You can see it's kind of hitting the sides of the pan. So now you can see it's nice and smooth. And that's what you want. So what I'm going to do now is cover this up until it basically doubles in size. I'm just going to leave it here on this and just cover it. All right, so that's gonna sit there and do its thing. I'm gonna go ahead and start a fire. And I'm like really short, so I have to like stand on this thing to turn the light on. Excuse me for a second. There we go.